Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Portsmouth School Board meeting for February 8th, 2011. If I could ask the superintendent to please take the roll call.
Ann Mayer.
Here.
Carol Chelman.
Here.
Rebecca Remison.
Here.
Dexter Legg. Kent LePage.
Here.
Ann Walker.
Here.
Mitch Schulman.
Here.
Tom Martin. Here. Leslie Stevens.
Here.
Clay Haywood. Linda Burlett.
Here.
Savannah Federo.
Here.
Thank you. So before we say the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to ask you to join with me in a moment of silence. I would like to make one comment and then pass it over to the Assistant Chair, Ann. I'd like to recognize School Board member Clay Hayward in our silent thoughts tonight, if you can remember his brother, Terry Charles Hayward, who passed away just recently.
And also keep in your thoughts Dave Cook, who was the head custodian at Don Darrow School for many, many years, a true gentleman, and all teachers know that your best friend is the custodian, and he really was a really good guy for the kids as well. So he only retired in June and didn't get to enjoy much of his retirement. So he passed away this week. So
thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remember the word.
If no one on the board has any issues with this, I'd like to accept the motion, maybe to accept all the minutes at once that we have here.
So moved.
second.
I guess no one has a problem with that. Any comments or discussions? All in favor of accepting? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We left out one little piece here on the agenda. So tonight we're going to have a public hearing, which is to reopen the first public hearing we had on the school budget, but there was a piece that was accidentally left off, and I'd like to offer it now, and that is we usually have a public commentary period that allows anyone who would like to come before the school board and speak to us for about 3 minutes. That was the piece that was left off. We usually have a sign-up sheet in the back. I don't believe we do, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to open that part up and offer to anyone here who would like to come and speak to the school board on an issue that they have on their minds. Okay, come on up. Come to the microphone and just state your name and where you live.
Hi, I'm Katie Ness. I'm a senior at Portsmouth High School, and I just wanted to talk to you guys on behalf of Shannon Grenier, who is the college counselor. Shannon Grenier is a great asset to PHS. She loves her job, and you can tell through her dedication. Not only does she fit everyone in for an appointment, but she opens her door for quick questions at lunch. Please don't cut the lady who constantly sends out emails reminding forgetful seniors about deadlines and scholarship applications. Sorry, I ran here. Portsmouth gives its students all the tools it needs to succeed in high school, but how does PHS help its students exceed at the next level? And that's with Shannon Grenier, so please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is LeeAnn Gonzalez. I am here as a Portsmouth taxpayer, as a parent of 2 graduates and a present sophomore at PHS, and also as an employee of Portsmouth High School in the senior grade office. I'm here to speak on behalf of Shannon Grenier, the senior college guidance counselor at PHS, who is being cut from our proposed budget. Before Shannon accepted a position at PHS, she had experience as a college counselor through New Hampshire Higher Education and worked in financial aid. She was also a college admission reader for college applications at UNH. Her present day-to-day activities include counseling students on the next step of their life. She meets with every senior and their parents to discuss their future plans. She provides personal and individual attention to each student. As I said, I work in the senior grade office, and I see firsthand the impact she has on students facing life after graduation. I would invite everyone in this room to come to PHS and to take a look at our college wall and see some of the outstanding schools that our students have been accepted to. Tufts, Cornell, UNH, Harvard, Great Bay Community College, West Point, and of various trade programs. We have outstanding students who have achieved their dreams because of the hard work and dedication of Shannon Grenier and the entire guidance team at PHS. Shannon is here every day for our students and personally makes it her mission to know each student and their future plans. She is even a great resource for our graduates who come back for help and support. My son graduated last year and decided to go to UNH. After a semester, he decided it wasn't the right fit. She met with him, and together they worked on finding the right school for him. He is now a second semester freshman at Bates, and Shannon he has Shannon to thank for helping him with that decision. Today I talked to many seniors about this, and one student actually had tears in her eyes, even when they heard Shannon wasn't coming back. You will hear from several seniors tonight, as you can see the crowd behind me. This is a crucial time in a student's life, and it takes a special person to guide seniors through the transition from high school, and Shannon is instrumental. I urge you to reconsider cutting Shannon from our guidance department. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can roll it to the public hearing.
Yeah, okay.
Hi, sorry. Hi, my name is Nevin. I'm a senior at Portsmouth High School. I live in Portsmouth. I'm also here to speak on behalf of Shannon Grenier. After lunch today, I went into Ms. Gonzalez's office and she told me that they were cutting position. And I'm the student she talked about who got teared up when she said that the plan was to cut Shannon, Ms. Grenier. She has been more than a guidance counselor to me and most of the people who took the time to come here. She is an incredible woman who's not only passionate about her job, but about the future of students at Portsmouth. She spends more time than you can even imagine for us and only for us. She reads over anything that you send to her at night. I know a student who sent 3 scholarship application essays to her last night, and she read them and got back to her within a half an hour. This woman cares about students. She is here for us. She loves us, and the fact that she could be gone next year, it worries me for the students of Portsmouth. She is everything for my college quest. So I spent the whole afternoon trying to get people here and to support her, and that's why so many people are here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't be shy.
Hi, my name is Jeanette MacDonald. I'm here as a Portsmouth taxpayer, as an employee of Portsmouth, and excuse me, and as a mother of 5 children in the Portsmouth school system. What I'd like to say is that Shannon Grenier has made the college application process so much easier for my husband and I and our children. We're sending our first one off to college and looking at what we had to do to get the college application done, the forms you had to fill out, it just made it so much more simple. Excuse me. Shannon has, for my son, actually, as Lauren had said and the others before me, they can send things to her no matter what time of the day it is. Her door is always open. She's dedicated. She gets back to the kids. If they have, it doesn't matter what kind of question they have, they can always go into her office and ask that question, and she's right there to get back to them. So I believe it would be a great loss to Portsmouth to lose this position, actually to lose this person in this position because of her dedication. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shala Levinson, and I'm a Portsmouth resident and have my last child at Portsmouth High. And here we are again. It's budget season, and Shannon Grenier's future at Portsmouth High is once again hangs in the balance. There is a saying, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Well, in this case, we do know what we've got, Shannon Grenier. and we do not want to lose her. Shannon Grenier has shown us what we were missing, and that it is not just about tenure and years in the system that makes a good college counselor. It is about professionalism, enthusiasm for the students, her expertise, and invaluable contacts that she brings to this position. There are times when it is important to reward seniority, but I believe exceptional performance should be considered above all else. And when you are fortunate enough to get it right and have the best person for the job in place, well, you find a way to keep them. You need to make sure you hold on to the good ones, the people that are terrific at their job, regardless of their seniority. It is clear you value the importance of the college counselor position because it remains in the budget. Now, make sure that you give the kids what they deserve, the best. And the best is Shannon Grenier as their college counselor. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eiley Foley and I live in Portsmouth, and I am speaking on behalf of Ms. Grenier. My college search began with big-name schools like Harvard, Tufts, and Stanford, and of course, UNH. Then I began to weed down my choices to more of my standards, like Vassar and Marist. Once looking at those schools, I decided that Poughkeepsie, New York was not my scene. Then I applied to 3 more schools, Assumption, Ohio Wesleyan, and Skidmore. In the beginning of December, with the help of Ms. Grenier, I sent my deposit to Ohio Wesleyan, where I'll be playing lacrosse there and study psychology. Without Ms. Grenier, I would never have found my dream school. In the middle of my junior year, I had a meeting with her to talk about the direction I was heading in for schools and what I wanted of my life. Ms. Grenier had this aura about her that made me open up. I had to spill my life at her so she could dissect my thoughts and match them with the school. A miraculous job, I think. She got to know who I was, she knew what sports I was doing, how my family was, and she even knew the status on a boyfriend. Ms. Grenier took the time to learn who I was, and as well as my classmates. I cannot say enough good things about her. If you look on the wall at our school, you will see a wall of ships. These ships have students' names on them and the schools they have been accepted to. This is the first year that over 100 ships have been put on that wall, and it's only February. This year was the first year that more students than ever have applied early action to schools. I would say most of my senior class already knows where they're going, and Ms. Grenier would be the cause of this. I strongly believe that without her, no PHS senior would be where they are today. Ms. Grenier has created a program called Naviance, which is designed to help students organize their thoughts on the college process. She updates all seniors about scholarships that are coming out. I'm pretty sure that I've received at least 3 emails from her this week to check on my own status. Portsmouth High School is lucky to have Shannon Grenier as a college resource. It would be a shame to lose her. She knows her stuff as well as her students. As a senior leaving, I fear for the juniors and underclassmen that do not have her knowledge and the knowledge of the college game. The Portsmouth High School Clipper ship will sail on without her, but not nearly as smoothly as it did without her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kate Shafer. I'm a senior at Portsmouth, and I can't tell you one kid in this room that hasn't used Ms. Grenier for some point in their college process. From the day in September where we signed up for Naviance till, I don't know, a few days ago when I was applying to an honors program at the school I'm going to, Elon, I have used Ms. Grenier so much. I met with her a bunch of times. Even when I didn't have scheduled appointments, I was going in. There's a period for a few weeks where I was in her room every single day with a new question. I was sending her emails. I was sending her my college essay. I was sending her all sorts of stuff. I had all these questions. I was so lost in the whole thing. And she gave such clarity to my situation. And I know that every senior that has met with her, which is, I'd say, most of our grade, can thank her for getting them through the college process so easily and so swiftly. I know if I didn't have her, or somebody with her enthusiasm, with her eagerness to help, that I probably would be going to community college or somewhere else where I really don't want to be, because I didn't have the audacity to reach for my goals and to look into things that I didn't know were present until she showed me them. And she showed me, like, all these things that I could do and all these things I was capable of doing. And I just didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe that I could do these things. And she showed me what was best for me and what was my best fit. And she's done that with every kid in this grade. And she's done so much in just a few years she's been here. And there's no way that the juniors can succeed as much and as well as we have so far without her help. So consider that.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eric Levinson. I'm a senior at Portsmouth High School, and I'm currently going through the process of figuring out what I'm doing for school next year. And it's truly a terrible process for all high schoolers to go through, but one thing that's helped me, and I think a lot of my friends too, is all the assistance I've been able to get from Shannon Grenier. And I understand the importance for you guys to look at seniority as you make your decisions, but if you truly want to be able to say that we're giving our students the best chance to succeed in their futures as they leave the Portsmouth school system, you need a college counselor who's not only good at their job, but is outstanding at their job. And from all of my experiences, and clearly from the experiences of a lot of my friends, Shannon Grenier is outstanding at her job. No matter what you guys decide, I'm thankful that she was there to help me in the college process, and I hope you consider that and also the future of everyone younger than me as you make your decision. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dylan Snover. I'm reading an excerpt from a letter that my mom wrote on behalf of Shannon Grenier. I believe that this college counselor position is not a plug-and-play position. You cannot successfully reassign another school employee with guidance credentials and get the same level of effectiveness, knowledge, and experience that translates into the same outstanding results for our high school students. Someone like Shannon, who is adept at the college admission process, has contacts and networks within the field, assists students to find the best fit for the next phase of their lives, and makes the process more efficient, is one of the best investments we can make with our students' lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Batty, and I'm a senior at Portsmouth High School. I'm the sibling of, I have 3 other siblings, and working with Mrs. Grenier this year, I've been to 3 high schools in 4 years, and I've never met a woman who is more outstanding and effective at her job. And I think the unusual thing about what she does is that she's friendly at the same time, and that's so rare when dealing with people, that she's able to motivate as well as make you feel comfortable and actually enjoy the college process. And I can't think of anyone I would rather have in a position to help my younger siblings as they go through the Portsmouth school system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Emma Ager, and I am also a senior at Portsmouth High School. And I'll keep this brief, but I just want to say that anybody who has ever been through the college application process or had a child go through the process knows that it's tiring, it's grueling, it's really confusing, and we're not experts as students, and our parents aren't experts either. We really only have one expert in our community, and that is Shannon Grenier. And if she is taken away, then we are going to have to look for other sources that aren't as knowledgeable. We might have to start paying out of pocket for college counselors to help our students get into the best schools possible. And I just think that as an add to our school, she is probably one of the most valuable people in Portsmouth High School. And I think that cutting her position would be a very big mistake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Wil Sacks. I'm a senior at Portsmouth High School. If you walk into any senior classroom in the morning, you'll see no less than 3 seniors who are falling asleep on their desks because they spent all night trying to finish that last application before the due date. Shannon Grenier is a godsend to people like me who are horrible at remembering due dates and such. She's just so dedicated to her job, and I can't imagine how disastrous it would have been if I had tried this whole college process without her assistance. I wouldn't be, as close as I am now to finally leaving high school and moving on to that greater step. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Angus McDonald. I'm a senior at Portsmouth High School. I also live in Portsmouth. Mrs. Grenier made my college application process a lot easier than it would have been. She made it substantially easier. She makes it so getting into college is her number one priority. She makes you her number one priority. We can go to her anytime with questions. She has an open door policy, so you can pop in anytime during the day. She's ready to answer any question you have. She's concerned. She knows you personally. She goes above and beyond. Anytime you want to send her an email, she'll answer your question at home. She has 2 kids at home who she has to watch and raise, so she doesn't have to do that. But she'll take time out of her day when she's at home, off hour, to help you out. And I feel that PHS will suffer without her. I want the college application process to be just as easy for the juniors, sophomores, every PHS student after me, for it to be as easy as it is for me, for them. So that's why you shouldn't cut Ms. Grenier.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Zoey Pilla. I'm also a senior at Portsmouth High School. I can't explain to you enough how much Shannon Grenier has helped me on my college application process. I'm the first person in my family to attempt to apply to schools farther than community college. Both my parents went because, their friends said, I can't go to college without you. They had no idea where to start, how to help me. And so Mrs. Grenier was there when I needed her. She gave me lists of schools. She guided me. She asked me about my interests, where I wanted to be. She's concerned for every student. Like she knows me personally. She comes in, she was one of the first people I went to tell when I got accepted to schools. Like, she's always there for you. And she is not only helpful in the college application process, but now that we're applying for scholarships, financial aid, she sat down with my mom and she went through every question on the FAFSA with her because my mom had no idea, what it was talking about. She took the time to do that with her, and I don't know anyone else who would do that. She sends us emails on local scholarships, helps us figure out what teachers would be best for our recommendations. She's so vital to my future at this point that I just couldn't have gone through this process without her, and she's the perfect woman for this job. And like everyone has said before me, I would hate to see every child who goes through the Portsmouth school system. I'm sure there's some of you who have kids in the Portsmouth school system. I would hate for them to have to apply to schools and to get scholarships without her, because she just makes it so much better and so much smoother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maisie Howarth. I'm a junior at Portsmouth High School and I live in Portsmouth. I've already experienced how amazing Miss Grenier is. I had a conflict with my schedule at the end of sophomore year, and I went in and talked with Miss Werlinski. Well, band is really important to me, but I also want Spanish and all that stuff. And so she called in Miss Grenier and said, what is the best way to get all this in and still have the colleges that Macy wants? And so Ms. Grenier spent about 20 minutes with my mom and me sitting down and forming this schedule that would still allow me to apply to the colleges that I wanted to go to and have all the things that I wanted to in my schedule. And though I'm not applying to colleges yet and I'm dreading the process, I know that Ms. Grenier will be there for me and will make the process a lot easier. And the thought of going through that without her is terrifying, honestly. So I would really appreciate if you guys kept Ms. Grenier. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cristina Camicus, and I'm a senior at Portsmouth High School. Miss Grenier has helped me so much in the past few months. I can't even express how much she has helped me. She treats you like you are the only person she has to deal with. Every time I've tried to contact her, she has been extremely available. I find it so hard to believe that she has all these other students that she is dealing with. Just yesterday, I saw her in the hallway, and she apologized to me for replying to my email a day later. She was like, "Oh, I'm sorry that went to my junk mail. I got it to you a day later," because usually she replies so quickly. But a day, that's nothing. I can't even believe how on top of things she is. The college process would have been so confusing, so difficult without her. She really has helped me so much. I can't even express it. And I was applying to schools outside of the United States too, which at the time Miss Grenier didn't really know much about it. But she researched for me, she asked her other college counselor friends, she looked into it so much, and she came up with all these ideas for me about schools in England, in the UK, in schools in countries all over the world. And she helped me out so much with that. She found the perfect ones for me, and I applied to these schools that she hadn't even heard of to begin with. And the schools that I want to go to are these ones that are abroad, which she researched for me. I met with her many times a week at some points because that's what you have to do when you're applying to college. Some weeks I met with her every day that week. I would make it a point with her and stop by, and she was always available to me. She has been so useful to me in this process, and PHS would be at a great loss without her. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christine Collins. I'm from Newcastle. I have a senior and a freshman. And the thought of facing the college process without Shannon Grenier just brings me to my knees. The kids have said so eloquently how professional she is. She is so accessible. She reviews, as they said, all of their college essays if they need help. She just responded on a dime. Her professionalism, her expertise was really outstanding. She's a shining star. I just don't know how we would replace her. So I urge you to please keep Shannon Grenier at the school so those of us with younger children will have her to look forward to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Becky Harvey Macbeth. I'm a resident of Portsmouth, and I have 3 children that graduated from the Portsmouth School District and one that is in the high school now. While I understand the superintendent's position and why the proposal has been brought forth, I really want to speak against it tonight, and I think that the students' testimonials have really spoken to why, and it's this individualized education that the school district has worked so hard to establish and has followed through for our kids. Specifically in the proposal, there is the guidance counselor, Shannon Grenier, at the high school, which is a very specialized position, as well as the position of eliminating the 3 outreach guidance counselors in the elementary schools and the special ed director. These are all programs that really look at the whole child, follow the children all the way through the school district, know the child's family, know their academic strengths and weaknesses, coordinate with classroom teachers and administration. And specifically, you're hearing testimonial, and you will from me as well, regarding Shannon Grenier and what a critical link in that change she is. But I don't want to also overlook that I really feel like these cuts, I'd ask all the school board members to reject them because I think they really jeopardize the values that we have really tried to go forward in the school district and what makes our district and our community special, because a lot of these kids will be coming back here, I think. I'm a parent that has had 2 children go through individualized education through the special ed department, and I can tell you they both graduated from Portsmouth High School. I know one in the top 10, I'd say both of them in the top 25, and that was because of special individualized attention starting in preschool, okay, and following all the way through and continuing. They're both in college. I'm also a parent that was very lucky to have a child that was valedictorian last year of the high school, and she got individualized attention, just like my other children all the way through. And I don't want us to deny that to the other children that are coming through. And I don't want to put the pressure on classroom teachers and on guidance counselors, on the entire system. I just don't think we can keep up the quality of education and make these cuts that have been forced to be suggested. So I really, really would request that we reject this proposal. Shannon Grenier is one of those people that is so special, and there are lots of them, so it's dangerous to always just identify one, but she is critical to our high school. Just like first grade teachers are critical, but I know that my daughter Elizabeth would not be at Harvard if it wasn't for the last minute work that she did to get her in. That's just a fact. It's the truth. And I think that the Harvard admissions office would tell you that as well. I mean, Mr. Collins did some work as well, and there were teachers, everybody. It's all a big process. But what I'm afraid is we're chipping away at it, and we're taking these support services that make our teachers, make our whole system as special as it is. So again, look at the positions that have been slated. I beg you not to eliminate Shannon, and also some of these other support positions that are critical to all of our children, not just our special, not just any certain group, but it's going to really be all the children are going to be affected by these cuts. So thank you very much.
I'm Jane Zell. I am the mother of a high school senior, and I am here tonight, first of all, to ask you to take a second look at the outreach positions. Nowadays we have families where you have two working parents, people are overextended, people are worried about money, people are stressed out. Sometimes there's just nobody who's got the back of these kids. Excuse me, and it's really important for us to maintain professionals in the school who can do that. In terms of Shannon, I believe that Shannon's work is absolutely outstanding, and she's essential to the vast majority of Portsmouth high school students. So she is has one of these rare positions where she actually benefits, or potentially can benefit, all the children. But even more so, just because of who she is and because of the high quality of her work, she has enhanced the reputation of our high school in the eyes of higher education, in our own community, and in those who are considering coming to Portsmouth as a place to raise children. Having somebody like Shannon would be something somebody would look at who wants to come to Portsmouth, perhaps start a business, who is hoping to have kids who are upwardly mobile. When Joe and I, my husband, were considering early childhood decisions, we so painstakingly went to all the best professionals to try to pick out the right placement for our kids. We had no idea back then that we would need that level of expertise in the college application and admissions process. We are very grateful to the district for providing Ms. Grenier for us. Joe has a PhD, I have a master's degree, and I can tell you this application process and the college admissions process has been very complicated and very stressful for us. So I cannot imagine what it would be like for parents who haven't had the opportunities that Joe and I have had. We also recognize that it's very important for children to have a college education, and having expert help with that, having kids, get expert guidance in terms of how to apply, where to apply, is going to help them. It's going to give them a leg up in the world, and it's also going to help them go into higher institutions of higher education and go forward into the world, and then continue to reflect back on Portsmouth, which is what we all want. Shannon cannot be replaced. Somebody cannot step into her position because she has such a phenomenal detailed understanding of universities and colleges. She has a great reputation and rapport with these universities and colleges. She understands the application process. She is up to speed. She is highly respected by the New Hampshire Higher Education Assistance Foundation. We hear nothing but glowing attributes and comments about her. So in short, really, she cannot be replaced, and I really don't believe that Portsmouth can lose her. And I think it would hurt all of us to see her someday go to another district and realize that we were penny wise and pound foolish if we did not fight to keep Shannon Grenier in this district. So thank you for listening to all of us tonight.
Hi, my name is Tessa Fagan, and I'm a senior at Portsmouth High School. And, I wasn't going to speak tonight, but being here, I just really feel motivated to talk for Miss Grenier. I have two older brothers who both went to Baroque Academy, and the support that they got through the college system, the process for applying to college, was unbelievable because they went to a private school, and, that's part of what, they pay for in their tuition. And when it became time for me to go to high school, my parents were really hesitant to send me to public school because they weren't sure if I would receive the same support that my brothers got. And when I started the college process my junior year, my parents were amazed with Miss Grenier and everything she did for us, and walking us through the whole entire process. And as you guys know, the college applications and everything, a lot of that is online right now. And everything is done electronically, and that is so confusing for parents. I know my mom, she does not know how to work a computer, and, having Miss Grenier there to just walk us through everything and check over every step was just so unbelievable. She's really a necessity to Portsmouth High School. And, on a different note, I think it really says something that there's a ton of seniors behind me right now because, if Miss Grenier doesn't come back to Portsmouth High School next year, that does not affect our grade at all. We'll be off in college already, but we were all so grateful for what she has done for us in this college process that we want to make sure that the grades below us receive the exact same, support and comfort that we got from Miss Grenier. So please do not cut her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sam Lichtenstein. I'm a sophomore at Portsmouth High School, and I live in Portsmouth. Next year, I begin my college search, and it sounds as though there's no one who could better help me than Miss Grenier. She is a valuable asset to the Portsmouth School District and a key part of the Clipper pride that graduates carry with them every day. I urge you not to cut her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Simone Fontenot, and I'm a senior from Portsmouth High School, and I live in Portsmouth. The first time I met Miss Grenier was last year. It was her first year, and she already knew my name. She said, "Hello, Simone." And she can spell it, too, which is hard for people. And, she takes time to know us, not only as students, but as people, and she loves us as people, and is so valuable and a guidance counselor. And I'm the first one in my family to go to college, and last year and even in September I had no idea where I wanted to go, and it was terrifying, and I would have never thought that I would have been in 3 schools already. I've already been accepted, and I would have never imagined that for myself at this time last year, and I just hope you guys consider that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tori Blanchard. Oh, this one. Awkward. Okay, hi, my name is Tori Blanchard. I'm a senior at Portsmouth High School. I'd go as far as to say Miss Grenier is my new best friend. My favorite place in the school is her comfy chair right next to her desk. I'm in there every day. Lauren talked about somebody that emailed her 3 scholarships in a night. That was me every night. She emails me, I have this new record. It's 1 minute. She emailed me back. Fantastic. So, I don't know. Miss Grenier literally is the best thing that has happened in my life. She showed me colleges I would like, scholarships that I would be interested in. Because of her, I am one of the top 4 finalists for a scholarship out of most of the kids in New Hampshire. Because of her, she helped me write my speech. She helped me send it in. And I went there today, and when I mentioned that Miss Grenier was my college counselor, they just went off. They raved about her. So we've got a lot of people in the state, that aren't even here that support her and love her. So please, please, please consider keeping her because she's a great asset to Portsmouth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob McDowell, I live in Portsmouth. Obviously, it sounds from the sounds of things here, we're doing a great job in counseling the kids. Now, I think maybe it's time to look at how we're doing at educating them. Now, the figures I'm going to use are what were published in the Portsmouth Herald, so if I'm incorrect, please correct me. Last year's budget was $36.9 million to work with 2,644 kids. That comes out to $13,956 per student. I've also seen a figure as high as $17,000 per student when you factor in federal aid. I don't know exactly which one is correct. However, let's see what we're getting for that much money, and that is well above the national average and even above the state average. According to the state website, State Department of Education, all of the Portsmouth Public Schools failed to meet standards last year in reading and math in terms of adequately yearly progress. So again, counseling's great, but we also need to provide basic education. I also looked up the SAT scores for 2008 through 2010, and I'm working on getting the data back to about 1995. In 2008, Portsmouth schools, and the SATs, remember, are a big indicator, and you folks all remember how much fun those were a couple of months ago, right? Those are a major indicator of how well we're doing, particularly with our best top kids, most of whom I hope are sitting right behind me. All right, 2008, Portsmouth in math was 15 points below the state average and only 5 above the national average. And we're talking averaging us in with states like Mississippi, West Virginia, others that don't spend a fraction of what we spend on education. One of the things that's going to make college applications easier for this group is when you look at last year's scores, 2010, we came up a fair amount, which is respectable and will certainly make their application and college admissions processes a whole lot easier. We're still only a few points above the state average, even though we're spending more than most other jurisdictions in the state, and we're a fair amount above the national average, which will get them into state schools, Ivy League. It remains to be seen. All in all, I'm all in favor of funding education, but I also believe in getting our money's worth, and the data indicates that maybe that's not happening. So already the school department has had a fairly bloated, oversized budget, and now you're coming back for an increase. I think it's time the taxpayers ask for some real results for that investment. And it may or may not bother the rest of the folks in this room, but my next door neighbors, both of whom graduated from Portsmouth High School before 1940, are going to have to leave their home this June because of the increased taxes, and they can't afford to pay them. That should impact your decisions. What I'd like to also ask is that, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like a copy of the Excel file for the FY 2012 budget so that we can analyze it, look at it, see where the money's going, how it's being spent, and if these Portsmouth Listens groups get started, we can make some informed decisions and informed discussions on the program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Adam Wong, Portsmouth. I'm a senior. I've never told anyone this, but let me ask you a question. Do you know what it's like going home and having your family think that you're a disgrace? Do you? I plan on going into the military. My parents, they disliked that choice. Miss Grenier was the first person to congratulate me on acceptance to the Norwich Corps of Cadets. The first person. My parents don't even want to look at me. She has affected us all greatly. She's helping us along the way. Cutting her is a big mistake. I mean, really? You're willing to sacrifice the quality of the students just to save a couple bucks? I mean, I'm almost 100% confident that everybody behind this podium supports Shannon Grenier. And, I mean, open your eyes, please. She's a big help to our community, and she's making us she's turning us into responsible young adults. And we're going to be needing that since we're going off to college. And pulling her away from the system, I mean, we even heard the statistics. I mean, our academics might not be as great as they should be, but taking Miss Grenier out of the equation, it's not helping us. It's only going to make Portsmouth High School worse. Thank you.
Patrick Ellis, 235 McKinley Road. Bear with me. I don't have Wi-Fi to connect the bigger screen, so I'm going to read off a much smaller one. I'm happy to hear the administration and the school board are looking at ways to increase the amount of education the students of our city receive. The idea that we can expand the academic day for our middle school students without increasing costs to provide that education is exciting. However, while I see many benefits, I'm left wondering about some elements of the proposal. Firstly, there was considerable time and energy spent 3 or 4 years ago in looking at the start and end times of our various schools. The process involved significant research, article review, and surveys with parents, students, and teachers. The findings of that work were pretty clear. Elementary students would not be adversely affected by having their day start earlier than they do today. However, there was general agreement that the current start time for both middle school and high schoolers was a detriment to their alertness and ability to learn at the start of the day. I see this firsthand every day, what it's like. My third grader's out of bed by 6:15, 6:30, and happily getting ready to start his day. My sixth grader sleeps through 2 alarms, has to be cajoled to get out of bed, is rushing to get out the door on time, all the while being irritable and a little bit groggy. It was commented that the change to the middle school start-end times was timely because the district was in the midst of negotiating a new contract with the bus company. If that's the case, then there is no time like the present to move forward with the research that the board and the committee have already done. This would also be a solid step forward to improving the conditions for our kids to learn and would have no impact on our cost to provide that education. Secondly, I do have some questions about the foreign language proposal. It seems that only those students who excel at all subjects will have the physical time to take a foreign language, as the foreign language block will be opposite the intervention block. For example, a student who just gets by in his or her kneecaps, or whatever assessment is used to determine if they should or must go to the intervention block, perhaps scoring proficient in one other category but not in another, may not be allowed to take a foreign language because he or she qualifies for intervention in, say, math, even if his or her reading scores were proficient. Is that a step forward or a step backwards? Plus, students will now have less instructional time in some classes. Yes, proficient students might get a foreign language, but what happens to those students when they have fewer English language arts classes each year? Will the teacher have the time to ensure that they stay where they are, or better yet, improve? Well, some students who attend the intervention block will get raised up. I'm nervous that some of those students in the middle will end up falling behind. In conclusion, expanding the school day is an excellent idea. I look forward to the day when our agrarian-based school schedule is a thing of the past, and kids get the optimum amount of instructional time at the optimal times at their schools. Please consider the points I've raised as you finalize the schedule and budget for the middle school. Thanks very much.
Good evening. My name is Laurie Lampert. I'm a Portsmouth resident, a parent of a recent graduate, and a parent of a current 8th grader. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the 5% cut to the operating budget, specifically for the Performing Arts Department. Forgot to mention, I'm also current president of the Parents Music Club for all Portsmouth schools. The 5% cut to the operating budget, what that affects is all supplies for the Performing Arts Department, which is elementary schools, middle schools, high schools. The music that is needed for all the concerts, whether it be the concert band, the percussion ensemble, the choir. It also affects the replacement and repairs of all the equipment. Contracted services, which will impact drama design and music for the fall and spring productions. Dues and fees for all the competitions, including the marching band competitions, the percussion ensemble competitions, especially including the WGI World Champions, where the percussion ensemble last year won 2nd in the world in their area. All the drama festivals, dues and fees for that, choir festivals. It will also impact the transportation to parades and competitions. Currently, to send the high school marching band to a competition is about $650 round trip. To send the percussion, which we're getting right into percussion ensemble competition, it's about $400 round trip. The Parents Music Club is contributing over $6,000 this year for percussion and the winter color guard costs for transportation to supplement the current school budget shortfall. As far as the WGI World Championships, which happens in April, the percussion students do contribute a major portion of their trip, which is in Dayton, Ohio, and other students for other away competitions do also contribute some for theirs. We have already lost a teacher for this current year due to budget cuts. There is no more room to lose a teacher or funding in the Performing Arts Department. It will be very noticeable if there is a loss. The holiday parade and the Memorial Day parades will probably not have a PHS marching band. One thing that I read a couple weeks ago in, I think it was the 2010 Wire Readers poll, where it was who would you vote as a ambassador to Portsmouth? Somebody wrote in and put the PHS marching band, which tells you a lot of the impact that they have on our community. So please reconsider the 5% operating budget cut. I also wanted to mention, as a parent of a recent graduate, I was shocked when I heard that you were considering cutting Shannon Grenier. I had gone through the process of the college application process a year ago, and it was very daunting. She was amazing. She was willing to help at any time. She just made it a lot easier. And to think that I have to go through it in 5 years without, her assistance it's pretty scary. So please reconsider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Sam Rusik. I am a senior at Portsmouth High School, and I am also here on behalf of Shannon Grenier. I'm a senior, and I've gone through all of these painstakingly terrible and college acceptance letters and what are they called? Yeah, and Shannon Grenier just makes everyone's life much more enjoyable, and senioritis is hitting many people I know, and I have many friends that if it weren't for her, they probably wouldn't even be going to be applying to any schools, because she seeks out people, not even the people that seek her out. Like, she just wants to make sure everyone has a chance to go to college, because high school is meant to prepare people for the future lives they're going to take, and to be successful in life, you have to go to college pretty much now. And as a college guidance counselor, she does a great job, and everyone appreciates her, and the school would be losing a big thing if it wasn't for her. And I think the future classes really need her, and she could provide a lot to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Brighton, 285 Union Street. I would like to point out to the students that Ms. Grenier has actually taught them a valuable lesson even this evening, that when they know their subject matter well, in this case Ms. Grenier, and when they know that subject and have passion for it, you can speak articulately, you can speak with passion, and you can be very persuasive. You guys have done a heck of a job tonight. Now, when you do reach my age, though, you do start needing notes, so bear with me. I did hand out a couple teachers' aids tonight. One is a list, and the other is a graph. You'll find them up there somewhere among all your paperwork. But I would like to start by bringing your attention to the list. It's a list of courses with enrollments. Now, judging by some of them, it's obvious that the students, like these courses. Introduction to Architecture, I would ask a question: how many architects in the field actually took a course in architecture in high school? Web page design. For me, if it came down to a choice, I know if I were in school and it came down to a choice for me between Algebra 2 and web design, I'd be taking web design. So 123 students makes sense. Film studies. There is no doubt in my mind that if it was a choice between film studies and Algebra 2, I'd be taking film studies. Ecology, I gather that is now a prerequisite. That surprises me. Natural disasters, 104 students. Again, and I'm a math guy, but I got to tell you, I'd be taking that one. I'd be pushing kids out of the way to get one like that. Introduction to TV production media, and Media 1 and 2. That is got to be one of my personal favorites. I do have one that's more favorite, but that is 136 kids. My personal favorite, as I said last time, is Another View. There are now 70 students learning about a history of the oppressed. And as I said last time, please put in the Portsmouth Taxpayer, and I will take the course. There isn't, I'm sorry, but there isn't a single course on this list that if it were cut, the basic education would suffer. Phillips Exeter would be proud of a list like this. And when you reach my age, you lose your place in your notes, too. I mean, we're teaching zoology, botany, oceans, planetary astronomy. Portsmouth Novak was ahead of his time. Planetary astronomy was called the Astronomy Club in my time, and we even made a telescope, but little did he know you can make a class out of it, too. Why don't we take these courses, bring it back to the basics, so that when they get to college, they'll have a better understanding of the basics. I mean, chemistry, physics, American history, earth science, English, I know they're all taught. But maybe we could extend that time period in which they're taught. These are nice. They're fluff. I'm sorry, but they're fluff. Second, my second teacher aid is the graph. And my budget was tight, so I wasn't able to hand them out to everyone in the audience. I don't know if everyone up there has them, but my budget was tight also. This graph clearly shows an issue that was brought up last time. It surprised me that the number of teachers actually has remained pretty steady since 2001, 2002. Is that the year? It's hovering right around 10% above the base year that I showed there of 95, 96. It hasn't changed much. That surprised me. The white line I show there is inflation. That's the middle line. That's running at about 50% above the baseline right at this moment. And then there is the budget, which is at 80% above the baseline. The question does become, where has the money gone? I think that since we know that personnel is 85, 86% of the budget, I think we know the answer as to where it's gone. I think one of the fundamental questions that needs to be answered is the teachers union needs to be asked why they continue in the face of evidence like this graph in front of you to take, because we're talking about cuts. We're talking a flat budget is going to be a cut. There's no, I'm sorry, but that's not a cut. There may be programs getting cut. So there's only one place that's going into the teachers' pockets. The union needs to be asked why, in the face of evidence like this, they continue to take our children's education and put it in their pocket. There is no simple or pleasant way other than that to describe it. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name's John Shea. I live at 34 Ridges Court here in Portsmouth. I'd like to offer 3 points, please, to the school board. First, there's been a lot of discussion and with respect to the Portsmouth Taxpayers Association, because I know a lot of the folks involved there very well. I have a lot of respect for what they're doing, but in particular about the economic circumstances that we're in, and a picture that's been painted that we're in a dire situation, and decimating a municipal budget and freezing taxes, cutting taxes is absolutely essential. I know this is a difficult economic time, but a couple of facts. Statistically, when you look at states that have been impacted by this recession, New Hampshire, when you look at home foreclosures, unemployment, New Hampshire is ranked 48th, 49th, 50th in terms of states impacted through this recession. First in New England in terms of weathering this recession. So things are difficult, but New Hampshire's actually done pretty well. Unemployment in New Hampshire is 5 point something, about half the national rate. Portsmouth in Rockingham County is the area of New Hampshire that has done the best. So in terms of this dire national picture, which it is, New Hampshire has actually weathered it and hopefully will come out of it relatively quick. And this area in particular, foreclosures, unemployment. So I ask that we keep in mind that I'm one taxpayer saying, I'm willing to do what I need to do to keep things going and keep things moving. And when we talk about how dire things are economically, this is not Detroit, Michigan. We're doing okay, and I ask us to consider that. Property tax and the fact that too much of the burden often falls or unfairly falls on seniors is more of a problem than the economy, and that's something we need to fix. That is something we need to fix. So please, let's keep that in mind, that things nationally are a lot worse than they are here when we make our decisions. Number two, we all know that a strong educational system is absolutely critical to a strong economy. We all know that. And in a global economic environment where we're competing with kids and high school graduates and college graduates and employees around the world, not just in our own country, it's even more critical. We know that. I don't think anybody refutes it. Yet consistently, over and over again, cities like Portsmouth, in tough economic times, rather than investing in the educational system that'll be the economic driver of the future for this region and for this state and for this nation, we consistently cut it. Some point in the future, people are going to look back and have a hard time figuring out why this seemingly intelligent society that seemed to care about its kids and its future consistently shot itself in the foot in times like this. Shot itself in the head, I think, is a more ample analogy. Number three, I'd like to respectfully ask the school board, our superintendent, our assistant superintendent, district leadership to consider that we as a community do not have a commitment to excellence or a vision for where we're going down the road. We have district leadership and a school board that works hard at improving our schools, but there is a big difference between district leadership and a school board working on improving our schools and a community, a city council, and a community that are actually committed to excellence in education. It's simply inarguable that we don't have that commitment. It's not stated anywhere. It's not written down anywhere. Nobody talks about it. There's not a definition of what it is, and there's no understanding of what it takes to get us there. While in the short term, I'm asking that we not cut funding to our current system because it makes no sense in a difficult economic time to hurt ourselves even further. Longer term, I'm suggesting that it's really not about these battles that we're having year in and year out about line item funding and a terrific guidance counselor at the high school. It's about having some sort of benchmark vision for what we as a community are aiming for. And these dialogues and these debates would be a lot healthier. We're actually having them in the framework of what are we aiming for. And I, for one, as a community member, and I know there are a fair number of others, and I'm not suggesting there's 20,000 folks in this community that believe in it, but I'm asking the school board and the district leadership to provoke us, to lead us, to advocate. And I'll be among those in the community willing to step up and say, yes, I want excellence. I want us to rethink how we educate our kids, because we've been doing it roughly the same way for more than 100 years. And almost everything else on the planet has changed in those 100+ years, except for the basic design of our education system. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Aiden O'Leary, and I'm a senior at Portsmouth High School. Miss Grenier has done for me what she's done for every other student you've heard from here. And I believe that if you were to cut Miss Grenier, then the number of students getting into college each year would drop, the number of students getting into college early acceptance would drop, and the number of students getting into college or getting into the right college for them would drop. And that's what I think you should consider. You'd be losing a positive and optimistic person, and she's really important for our school system, and people need to understand that and not worry about the money as much as they do. It's the kids' future that they need to worry about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cliff Lazenby. I live at 303 McKinley Road. I've got 2 daughters at Dondero School. I wanted to speak specifically about the subject of technology and how we are supporting and integrating it in our elementary schools, and especially Dondero, about which I know the most firsthand. As we propose deeper cuts in our financial commitment to technology, I'd like to reflect on the consequences of last year's cuts and last year's changes. Just about a year ago, on February 11th, the superintendent's office proposed a technology media program that, frankly, I thought, still think has some promise. Things about students using technology in every classroom, about making technology labs more accessible to teachers and giving those teachers appropriate levels of technical support, about giving support for those teachers so that we're integrating technology in their classroom as well as the labs themselves, and that the teachers would be expected to use these resources on a regular basis, and they would have support of computer technicians as well as the library media specialist / integrator. I think there's a lot of good sound to that, the idea of not having a once-a-week class or a special that you go to, because that's not really the way technology works in our world. It's part of every day. It's part of every job. It's part of home, work, entertainment. So what's the reality been this year? In November, at my daughter's meetings with our teachers, their teachers, about how things were going, I brought up the issue of technology. I knew that neither of my kids had really done a whole lot yet at school and was disappointed, but I wanted to know from the teachers what the picture was from their standpoint. What was the vision? What was the plan? I got some shrugs. I got not a lot of confidence. I've got, interest that they wanted to do it, but it didn't sound like we had that they had support. It didn't sound that they were using technology in their classrooms. So I was concerned. I've brought that concern to the attention of our new principal, who I think has been doing a terrific job, by the way, in tackling this and other issues. I brought it to the attention of other parents that I know were also concerned. I talked with the teachers about it. And we've got people that want to be working more with the technology. So this was November. What can we do? How do we get this going? By December, still hadn't used any technology. By January, they hadn't. This week, now 95 days into the school year, my second grade daughter is now, for the first time, using a piece of technology in her class. Does that match the vision that we talked, that you proposed to us a year ago? Whether it's the money we commit, or how we spend the money, or how we support and follow through, are we doing what we think is a good plan? Are we following through on that? My kindergartner, and you may think, oh, kindergarten, it doesn't matter yet, but I would disagree, especially if, I've taken to doing weekend computer classes with them myself to show them some things, and my kindergarten is sharp as can be in picking things up. But the technology plan in her class is for May 25th. May 25th is the day when they are going to use a computer. That's the plan I have from her kindergarten teacher. Does that fit the vision? Is that what we want? Is that excellence in our schools? Is that the plan that we want in integrating technology in our schools? Part of that same proposal a year ago asked how we would measure success. And what it put through, proposed, was that we would have digital portfolio projects across the schools, and we could measure that each of them have these projects. And that may have some merit and may be interesting, and there might be something that turns out valuable out of that. I would say, with some common sense and some obvious looking at the situation, the measurement's pretty clear. I don't think we've had success in integrating technology after the cuts we had last year and with the plan that we wanted to put in place this year. So I would ask the school board if what we've done this year is your vision for technology in Portsmouth schools. I would hope the answer from every one of you is no. And then I would ask that you think about what you can do to make a better vision a reality in our school system. If part of our plan in doing that is draining money from the support of technology in our school system, what do you expect the result to be? What should I expect the result to be? Am I going to expect that 20 or 40% less money is going to end up in improvement in what we had this year? Because it doesn't make me feel very good about our chances. I would like to help. People want to help. The teachers want it. I think are ready for it. I think we need to support this. I think this needs to be a commitment in our school system. And I would like also that we look at how we spend the money we do have. My kindergartner, who's going to use computers on May 25th, has seen a whole bunch of videos in library class. So she's gone to our library media specialist and she's watched some videos. I think she showed me how to do some shadow puppets. Okay, interesting stuff, but is that the priority? Is that how we want to spend the money we have? Finally, what has been also difficult for me as a taxpayer and a concerned parent and somebody that wants to help, it's been very difficult for me to find out over months of digging at this, is how do we as a system measure what we're doing with this? You published a plan, I think in 2008, that had a lot of terrific goals. It was this last year's plan with a lot more to it. I understand there's budget constraints that affect that, but there's things in it that weren't budget related. There's things that were there that were about vision. They were about modern thinking for modern learning. I think it's terrific. So when do we reassess that? When do we check in on how it's going? Is that plan going to be revised? Do we have input on that plan? This plan that was delivered a year ago, when does that get measured? When do we revise it? And in so doing, I ask that you not cut the money that we spend for technology. And the last thing similar to, or fitting with all of this that I think would be constructive for everybody is I would urge that we can have a public discourse, a forum that has communication between us rather than from me at you and perhaps from you at us later, but something where we can have some back and forth, we can roll up our sleeves and get something better done. Thank you.
Could I just ask if, I don't want to stop anyone from leaving because maybe you guys have homework, but so if people would like to speak some more about Shannon Grenier, if not, you're more than welcome to stay and listen to everyone speak, but I just wanted to give the students here an opportunity, if they wanted to get up and leave without being embarrassed. You don't have to take me up on it. It was just a suggestion. Thank you all for coming out tonight.
Yeah, they're never going to know what the real realities of the situation. Like you said, there's some back and forth. We should be able to say to them,
Yeah, I just think it's awesome they're here. Yeah.
Are they?
It's so cute that they clap after everything. The adults don't.
No, I mean, they're very, very well mannered. So,
those are very good
boys, but they're really nice. Really nice kids. Thank you. Thank you.
Seems like we lost our audience. I know. Right. So to continue, I didn't want to totally break it up, but we're still in the process of the public hearing, so if people still would like to come, I guess we're still in round one. So if anyone who hasn't spoken yet on the school budget would like to, we'd appreciate it. Okay.
Good evening.
I know it was different when it was full.
I know. Lisa Sweet, 259 Miller Ave. I'm going to speak just a little bit about Shannon. I know that most of the people who were here specifically for that are out in the hall now. What is important to me and should be important to you about Shannon, she's a product of the Portsmouth School District. She is a product of what all of our jobs are and what your job is in putting this budget together. Professionalism, enthusiasm, dedication, adept, outstanding, effective, vital, necessary, passionate, good at what she does. So I want you to consider that as you put forth your budget. The second thing that I want you to think about as you put forth your budget are all of those students. They're the best of what Portsmouth does in their schools. Here they are taking a time out of their studies, of their practices, of their college applications, of their jobs, of watching younger siblings, whatever it is that they do and all of it that they do. Here they are spending a night advocating for something that really doesn't affect them at all. They're all here advocating for the future so that all other students can have what they have. They know what it is. They want all students to have what they have. Those students are driven. They want to get it right. And they're here asking you to do your jobs and think about what we need to do as a community for the future of our kids. I would say that the Portsmouth School District is a system under pressure. What you've been asked to do is essentially cut another nearly $2 million from the budget. It's got to come from somewhere. It's very difficult to do. I have a 9th grader, a 7th grader, and a 2nd grader in the Portsmouth schools now, and I can see at each level how the cuts have impacted what they're receiving. I can see a difference in what my 9th grader gets versus what my 7th grader gets versus what my 2nd grader gets. So what you see in the audience tonight is what we had. I don't think that's where we're heading. I'm afraid that that's not where we're heading. And it's all of our jobs, it's all of your jobs, it's all of our jobs as a community to put stewardship for public education first in the budget process. And I think you guys need to think really hard about what your first priority needs to be as you finish the budget. And I know you've got only a few hours left to work on it before you submit it to the city. But I really want you to think about where your priorities need to be, and think about public education and its impact on our community. Because your work and how we as a whole community educate all of our children, the ones that are here tonight and the ones that aren't, the parents that come out and the parents that don't, those decisions and those choices that we make as a community are going to impact the world that we wake up in tomorrow. So, you know, think about it. Because those kids were just in 3rd grade the other day. I remember, just like it was yesterday, they were in 3rd grade. They're only kids for a little bit, and then they're adults for the rest of their lives. So we only have a little bit of time that we can make them the best contributing adults that we can. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone who hasn't spoken yet? Okay, so we'll go into round 2 and offer, so anyone who has spoken can come up again and say some more if they'd like. Or if you haven't spoken yet either, you're more than welcome still.
John Shea again, 34 Ridges Court. I just want to reiterate the need for leadership, and I'm just asking for it. I was just talking with Patrick Ellis. I've been here, this is 10th, 11th year living in Portsmouth. It's my hope and intention to live here the rest of my life. I adore this community. People are giving up because we've been through this process. We went through this process last year. We went through this process the year before. We went through this process the year before that. We went through this process the year before that. And there's a lot of folks that care about our schools that feel like they're not getting heard, or we're only 18% of the households. The 4/5 of the community that doesn't have kids in the school doesn't seem, or significant portions of them don't seem to think that schools are for all of us. And they're not my kids, they're our kids. They're Portsmouth kids. I'm desperately asking, because I'm afraid we're going to get to a point where the school board communicating to the city council, or the city council is going to say, well, you know what, the crowd is dwindling. And I can imagine folks thinking, well, great, we've worn them out. We've won. We can do what we want. This is about leadership, and this is about gut. I want the school board and my superintendent, who I have a lot of respect for, and my city council calling us to the carpet for demanding better for our kids. And no, but a word that is disappearing from the English language, in my opinion, is sacrifice. The folks that grew up in World War I, the Great Depression, World War II, everybody fought World War II, whether you were in the Pacific or in Europe or here in Portsmouth. Now in Afghanistan and Iraq, it's tax cuts and please go shopping. I'm willing to make sacrifices. I want to make sacrifices for our kids, whether they're in the form of taxes, whether they're in the form of rethinking our state system and the lack of a general sales tax and the lack of a income tax. The only other state that is missing both is Alaska, and Alaska has oil. We have the lowest tax burden. Individuals in New Hampshire, not only are we weathering this economy a lot better than the rest of the country and the rest of the planet, we're in a place not to decimate our municipal budget. The national picture is very different than the one that's here. We have the lowest individual tax burden in the United States. New Hampshire does. New Hampshire does, when you factor in federal and state taxes. So we can suck it up a little bit here. Nobody's talking about that. No, I don't, and I apologize if I've missed it, but I'm not hearing it from any civic leadership. Sacrifice, what can we do to support our schools? I'm one person saying I'm desperate for it, and I'll do whatever I can, but I'm telling you, if it's going to come down to getting 600, 800, 900 folks, a lot of folks last year were here for schools, and we lost to the pool. And I love the pool. And I told the advocates of the pool, I like you and I like the pool. I'm not speaking up for it because we got to take care of our schools first. We have to have leadership. You guys got to be screaming at us. Please. Thank you.
Mark Brighton, 285 Union Street again. I have to admit, it does drive me a little crazy when I hear about cuts. As that graph shows, the problem has not, never has been, and won't be the Portsmouth taxpayer being willing to sacrifice. We are half again from the base year of 95, 96, we are half again above the rate of inflation. Don't talk to me about sacrifice. Talk to me about where the money has gone then. If there are programs being cut, it is not because of the willingness of the Portsmouth taxpayers to pay. Talk to the teachers about sucking it up. They are taking our children's education, then if there are program cuts, they are taking our children's education and putting it in their pockets. It has been decades since a budget, whether it be school or municipal, has been cut in this town. Take a look at that. The rate of inflation, we are so above that with this budget. Choose your words carefully, please. They're not cuts. There may be program cuts going on. Talk about sacrifice, then ask who should be sacrificing. I don't see any teachers up here volunteering to sacrifice. Why keep putting it on the Portsmouth taxpayer? Yeah, that is the sound of crickets I hear. Thank you.
Patrick Ellis, 235 McKinley Road. My prepared comments are gone, so now I get to ramble a little bit. I think John Shea I find to be a very powerful speaker, and it strikes me that what I haven't heard this year is anything pushing back against this idea that the only thing that is acceptable is 0%. When I was on this board, we put forward a budget that had cuts to the proposed budget. City Council pushed back, and myself, Kent, voted against that budget, the additional cuts. We weren't comfortable that it was for the good of the schools. And I guess I wish I would hear a little bit more from the board that you don't see the vision that the City Council is pushing on the school department as good for our schools. I'd really like to see a focused effort put forward to engage with the City Council, to try to get a better understanding from them as to what the long-term impact of some of their decisions is going to have. I know that time and again, this board has reached out to the City Council to sit down with them and discuss education outside of the budget process, and they have elected to ignore those requests. I encourage you to ask again. Can it hurt to ask every month to let them know how important it is to have a conversation about education outside of the budget process, to talk about what does work and what doesn't work without the specter of 0%, 0%, 0% being the only thing that dominates the conversation. Reach out to them. Let them know that you're not comfortable with this. Give them a budget that you're comfortable with. Let them make a decision. If they feel that it's too high, let them make that decision. It's up to you to make the decision about a budget that's appropriate and good for our schools. Thank you.
Lisa Sweet again. Patrick reminded me. I sent you all an analysis that I had done of our tax bill, the tax bill that we get. And it gets broken down into local education, other municipal, and state education. And the New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration also breaks down the tax rates in each town in those buckets. So you take whatever it is you pay and you put it in the buckets. So regardless of what your town's valuation is, you've still got whatever it is you pay based on whatever your valuation is, and you fill up your little buckets. When I looked at the analysis, when I looked at these numbers, and what I sent to you, what I see is that Portsmouth is putting less in its local school bucket than the state average, and more in other buckets. I looked at the state average, I looked at a handful of communities, and then I landed on looking at the communities that you all have chosen to compare us to. You know, they have a similar size school district, they have similar offerings, you know, they're the only ones that we can compare ourselves to. So when I compare us to those districts, regardless of whatever their valuations are, Portsmouth is putting less in our school bucket than those other communities. I've done that analysis, I've given that to you, so I guess what I would need now is either you to ask the City Council, how come our bucket for education is getting filled up less than our other buckets compared to everybody else? You know, why aren't we filling our bucket like the other towns are? Or I want you to come back to me and say, Lisa, whatever you did here is just wrong. Your numbers are wrong. Just tell me what I did wrong. Because I can't figure out what I did wrong. I took the debt out. I know that our school bonding debt is carried on the municipal side. So I took that out for you. I figured out what that is. I figured out how many cents on the tax rate that's going to be worth. And I took that out, and I put that in our school bucket. And it's still not as full as the other communities. So if you could take a look and answer me, or take it on to the City Council and ask them, you know, why are you hitting the other bucket? Why don't you hit the school bucket? Because I don't think it's the schools that are driving the cost up. And the schools are, they need the resources that they have. They need to invest in technology. That's what Mr. McDonald wanted to do when he got here. He wanted to get up to speed on technology. And we haven't been able to invest in that. And there are other things that we'd like to do. So anyway, I remembered that when Patrick got up and spoke. Now I'm going to go home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, end of round two, and one last opportunity if anyone would like to come speak. Okay. We'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight, and I'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, can we take a 3-minute recess?
Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe even 5.
Yeah. Good idea.
Okay. So just to continue on with our agenda, if there are no objections, we have some people in the audience who would like to speak before us on some issues on our under new business, and if there's no objections, I'd like to suggest we move them up so that they can go home.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you very much. So, Russ, please join us. Thank you for coming.
I think you have your our request before you. It's quite simple. We'd like to request to the NHIAA to form a PHS Sanborn Cooperative Hockey Team. In order to do so, to apply to the NHIAA, we need prior school board approval for that application. And I think I described everything in pretty good detail there. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Rebecca, yes.
I just have a question. You talk about the prorated participation at approximately $1,000 per player. I have an older spreadsheet from 2007, so I'm sure that the cost has changed. But it came out to be more than that per student.
Yep.
So I don't want to be giving anything away for free.
Absolutely. We estimate approximately a $25,000 ice hockey budget. We don't take buses to practice anymore, so the document you have is probably a little dated. And we figure that again, the figures will vary. If we can get anywhere between 16 to 18 of our own players, 3, 4, 5 Sanborn players, we hope to get about 24 to 25 players. That's just a round figure number. If it ends up being $1,100, so be it, or $1,200. But those are ballpark figures of about $25,000 and roughly 25 players.
And we used to rent the rink field, the rink at UNH. Was that
before my day? If you did.
Okay. So is the rink?
Just so you know, it wasn't the rink at UNH. We rented Jackson Landing, which is a small recreational rink that was about 12, 15 years ago.
Okay. So has the rinks in Exeter been the most recent history?
Ever since I've been in the 5 years that I've been there, we've only rented the rinks at Exeter.
Have you looked into other?
It's extremely hard to get any ice time anywhere. And that's our home rink for our games also, so we prefer to practice there. And it's a fairly common rate. You might vary a little bit if you go to a lesser rink, but that's where we practice and that's where we play.
Okay. And then the transportation will be provided by the students themselves?
We used to practice real early in the morning before kids could drive legally, so we had to take a bus. We don't do that anymore. We practice after school and evenings.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Carol?
Hi.
Sorry.
Hi. Thanks.
I saw a hand up go over there.
I know. I saw you. I started wondering too. Could you just explain to me exactly how much savings this is going to bring to us? Just $3,000?
The only savings will be whatever the figure it is, $1,000, $1,100 per player from Sanborn.
And you think there'll be approximately 3 players, or you have no idea how
They
many?
say they have between 2 and 5 players that would be interested right now.
Two and 5. Okay, so that would be the extent of the savings.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm always intrigued and like the approach of trying to find synergies, especially within our region. This just reading through the letter and how you described it, I'm assuming we're going forward with a sort of a good faith, and we have the opportunity to reevaluate the program every year after the year is up, and then we would basically be doing this. It's basically an annualized. So if there was a point when we said, this is no longer working out, or Sanborn suddenly says, we don't have any more hockey players, we can at that review time we can say, we're going to dissolve the partnership.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The first go around it'll be 1 year. The NHIAA schedules in 2-year cycles, and this coming year will be in the second year of that cycle. So the first year it would be for 1 year we can reevaluate. Then after that it would be every 2 years.
Every 2 years. Okay. Right. Got it. Thank you.
And if Sanborn didn't have any players, we would just continue on as we do now.
Right.
So
yeah.
nothing would really
there would be no detriment to us. I mean, it's
Absolutely
just
not.
Sanborn. Right.
Correct.
Russ, and what is the, you mentioned $25,000 is the cost to the school district for running the hockey program?
Roughly.
Yes. And that's probably the most expensive sport,
Yes.
you think?
About 15,000, 15,000, that's just ice rental.
Is just the rental, right? Okay. Rebecca?
I just want to put a question or comment out to the board tonight. In light of everything that we're hearing, this seems to be a very expensive program due to the small number of students that participate. And a few weeks ago, we got a sample policy from the superintendent, and it's one of Oyster River's policies, and it says classes below 12 will be brought to the attention of the superintendent for approval. And that is so that there's a high school class that doesn't only have 4 students in it as a way of cost savings. And so I just want to throw out to the board tonight if we think that having 20 students from Portsmouth is worth the cost. Thanks.
Okay. So what are you looking for from us tonight?
We just need, in order to apply to the NHIA, we need prior school board approval for the application. And depending on what they say, we're in Division 3 right now. If they say if you add, 5 or 6 players from Sanborn and you're going to be a better team, you have to move up to Division 2, we're not interested. We're interested in staying exactly where we are. I've listed the benefits of adding these kids, not only for the Portsmouth kids. These kids in Sanborn aren't playing in a high school program now. So it's like a good neighbor gesture also. And it's going to help our team with depth as well as, I don't know, to be honest with you, how good these kids are. But any kids that we can add to our program certainly helps it, and it certainly helps defray the cost at $1,000 plus per person.
Right. I'm sorry, Ken.
Russ, how did this come to you? Did Sanborn approach you?
They did. We were at a state meeting, and they were looking locally for any team that could help them out with the players that wanted to play hockey from Sanborn. And at the same time, we've always been looking for numbers to increase in our hockey program. So we think this is a win-win-win-win at several levels. For us, for Sanborn, for the NHIAA, for the budget. I don't see any downside, to be honest with you.
So one other quick question. So when you say preliminary approval, so if we were to say yes this evening, but in our budget conversations on Thursday, we make a different decision.
This is just for the application. It'll take weeks, if not months, to go through the NHIAA.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the PHS Sanborn Cooperative Hockey Team proposal as presented.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussions? All in favor of approval, pre-approval? Say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain, because I have a child on the team.
Okay. Thank
you. Thank you very much.
We'll move along to policy. Kathleen can go home soon.
The board has 3 proposed policies for first reading tonight, all 3 of which are in response to our recent renewal application with Primex. They're policies that, if adopted, would result in a net decrease in the premium paid to Primex. The first is motor vehicle safety belt use, which would require employees to wear seat belts while they're on school business. The second is a slip, trip, and fall policy, which mandates keeping hallways, sidewalks, parking lots, stairs, and other areas accessible to employees, students, and the public, free from obstruction and in safe condition, and that it would require each facility to maintain a slip, trip, and fall log, and an evaluation process as a result of the information collected in the event that there were slip, trips, and falls. And the third one is temporary and alternative duty, which is to have employees who are injured return to work in some capacity. If they're not able to return in full capacity, that where appropriate, an alternative less duty would be available to them. One example would be someone who had a leg injury and was required to spend a lot of time on their feet. in their job might be given a job mowing, for instance, on a riding mower. That was an example that the policy committee looked at. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
John.
Are these policies being put forth because of specific insurance or state regulations? And if so, from an insurance standpoint, I mean, obviously policies are a good thing. Is there any financial benefit that we get by having specific policies that say, yes, we're going to wear seatbelts, while driving, motor vehicles on policy, et cetera?
Yes, I think Mr. Bartlett can speak to that.
Yes.
There is a designation that most of the school pool salve and Primex is no exception. Theirs is called the prime designation, which means that if you are if you meet certain parameters in terms of self-evaluation, and then you have certain common sense policies that are official. All these things now we technically do unofficially.
Right.
Certainly the back to work piece anyways is part of our normal workers' comp situation. But to actually formalize them in a specific format and have them means that we would get that designation and we would be able to, I believe it's an extra 5% discount on our property and liability insurance.
All goodness.
Yeah.
All right.
Carol?
This is maybe more of a question for you, Ed. Will all of these policies go in the personnel policies?
Well, we actually made our first iteration of an employee handbook this year.
Okay.
And so we would add those. I think these are,
Yeah, these would
key
be
policies
really good
right
to
around
put
the
in there.
seatbelt, absolutely.
Okay, and I might have had one other question. Oh, Attorney Dwyer, the alternate duty. If the person doesn't want to do whatever we come up with for them to do, and it's appropriate what we're asking for them to do, we can stop paying compensation, right? If they're not doing whatever it is that so there's a benefit to us in terms of, if they don't do what we're asking them to do, then they don't get compensation.
Well, there's multi-level benefits. That exact question, I would defer to human resource as to how that would be handled.
Okay.
But you want to get employees healthy and back to work as soon as possible.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So this is first reading?
First reading.
So
I'll make a motion to approve can we do the as three, as a group?
I would suggest we try that.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve these for first reading.
Second.
Any discussion? So we'll take a roll call vote.
Carol Chelman?
Yes.
Rebecca Emerson?
Yes.
Kent LePage?
Yes.
Ann Walker?
Yes.
Mitch Schulman?
Yes.
Tom Martin?
Yes.
Leslie Stevens?
Yes.
Vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Attorney Dwyer.
Okay, so let's jump back a little bit and pick up at the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your materials, you'll find a copy of January's Board and Administrator, as well as February Superintendent's Update that went out to staff and parents on Friday, where we communicated an update on the budget process, some of our NECAP results, and also shared some survey data we had put out to staff in our efforts to build intervention and enrichment blocks. You have an article that Ms. Emerson had asked that I share with the board. It really highlights NEA New Hampshire's decision to not hold its annual Read Across America event in the New Hampshire State House in light of the change in the rule which permits now guns to be on the floor of the legislature. Board members had asked for some specific information. Specifically, you had asked for special education codes in light of Paula Wensley's presentation to you, as well as what the rec department has charged for usage of its fields, and you can see that that adjustment is pending to $20 an hour for field usage. We used a new technology here to find out what would be appropriate in terms of setting a retreat date based on the response we received from folks. March 29th is the date folks can make that, so it'll be a retreat, a location to be determined later, and it'll be at 5:30 p.m. with a a little potluck or something of that sort to kick things off. And I would also ask that, traditionally, I've talked with the chair, our next meeting, our next regular school board meeting is scheduled for March 8th, which is some 4 weeks away. And there's much business to conduct, so I'm recommending, and hopefully folks can accommodate us here, is to have a workshop meeting 2 weeks from tonight, which would be your normal workshop meeting date, which would be February 22nd, so that we can take up, there are a lot of matters to be addressed here in short order. In terms of correspondence, you have a letter from the Portsmouth School of Ballet. They're highly appreciative of using the high school auditorium each spring. And thank you for that. You have an invitation to participate in Read Across America, which will actually take place a little bit early in advance of one's birthday, Dr. Seuss's birthday. It'll be Friday, February 25th, so hopefully if you can participate, you can read in one of 3 schools. You have a letter from Pat Lasker, who's been our food service director, announcing her intent to retire at the end of the school year. And not in your packet, but you have an invitation from the Joint Building Committee to attend tomorrow evening's work session with City Council and the Rec Board. And that's the superintendent's report.
Okay. And where was that last one? It's not in the packet.
Yeah, you got to, I think Amy had put a little invitation in. Tomorrow evening at 6:30, prior to the JBC's regular business meeting, is an invite to...
Wasn't in my packet.
To join that large discussion.
Okay.
See no questions, I guess I'll turn it over to Mr.
Wait.
Oh, sorry, there is a question.
I just had one question about the field. It says that $45 if lights are used. Is that $45 total or $45 an hour?
I assume an hour. I assumed it was an hour.
Okay, all right.
But that's the rec department. I can clarify with Russ. But
It just seems like it should be an hour. It shouldn't be just $45.
Oh, I'm sure it
I mean,
is.
now we know what it costs
It is.
for our lights,
It is.
but
Okay.
it doesn't say that, so it just, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so you were going to?
No, announce Mr. Butler will give you a quick update with financials for the month.
Okay.
Okay, I emailed it last night, but I also provided hard copies today, so you get it both ways. I don't see anything unusual at this stage of the year in these reports, to be perfectly honest with you. What I am very encouraged about is if you look under the substitute line and compare it to where we were in January of last year, you'll see that we believe that the administration and staff have taken to heart our requests to be reasonable, and we're $100,000 on the right side of that number. So we're going to work very hard to continue for the rest of the year to hope that continues on that trend. By and large, if you looked at this, although there are some minor differences to plan for the salaries, we're still, on the positive side in that respect. This is the time of year when we work very hard to try to maximize whatever usage we can of our other funding, specifically federal grants, so that if we have leftovers and pieces that we can levy against things, we work very hard to do that. So there will continue to be adjustments over the next month as we've got a couple of quarters worth of reporting in those grants. The benefits section, again, is pretty much where we planned that it would be. Again, the course reimbursement, it's a different situation this year, so we're ahead of where we were, but we're certainly not over what we have for a budget. The actual operating expenses for the individual schools, I think, have come more in line, excuse me, as we get ready for the next semester. So there really isn't anything that really jumps out at me as problematic. We're still watching closely the out-of-district tuition because we, based on our estimates, we're projecting that we're going to have to cover some extra costs in that, although those billings come in periodically. So right now, it looks pretty good, but I am still, working on a home for some projected overages on that between now and the end of the year. And I think that's primarily my report, unless you have some questions that I can answer for you about specifics.
Ann?
I just wondered if that maintenance might have anything to do with the snow removal, or is it totally unconnected?
I mean, it's all affected by that, but the maintenance we know is always right on the edge to being over, and it's quite easy for us to spend ahead of any plan. The challenge for us is to make it to the end of the year and maintain, our safety standards without going over. So this is when the challenge starts to begin. Because
So that number doesn't have anything to do necessarily with the...
It could be. I mean,
because they have had to do a lot of extra.
That won't, because that's
not
the snow removal part of it would be the overtime for the maintenance and custodial staff, which would be reflected in the salary section.
Okay.
The only way that snow removal would have a negative effect on this part of the budget would be if we had to use our contract plow service for the storms that are more than our equipment can handle. And so far, we're maintaining budget in that respect.
Thank you.
So I have just two quick questions. So could you just, I realize we won't spend more than we budgeted for course reimbursement, but remind me again why it's so much, so early?
The initiative this year for the technology and the iPads and iPods and everything else early on in the year that we worked it out internally to try to get that done in a batch fashion earlier in the year so that the teachers and staff would have the benefits of that training at the beginning of the school year as opposed to spreading it out over the school year. And we were able to group it together with the help of Mr. Zadravec.
Okay. And the other question is under pupil transportation 195. So how come we're saving so much money there?
That's probably just the timing of the way the monthly bill came in.
Okay.
I know that we haven't had a whole lot of extra homeless transportation, and certainly we haven't had too many field trips hit in either. So that usually catches up before the year is over.
All right. I just wanted to make sure we weren't leaving students behind somewhere.
Certainly not. That's certainly not my intention.
They're all catching the bus.
Right. Okay. Any other questions?
Just one comment. It looks like the energy is finally trending the correct way, and we're catching up on a bunch of these numbers that were pretty, swung the wrong direction from December. I wasn't expecting those numbers to actually return that quickly.
Well, again, it could be the timing of some of the invoices. We've had snow days and holidays, which certainly have affected our processing time. So, I do know they've come back, and we have caught up a little bit, but we may in fact have,
See
some more
reset.
activity in February. Depends on how the beginning and ending of the month hits in terms of, our manifest schedule, because we try to do one a week. But if we ended up having, like 1 week, we had like 2 snow events, so that totally messed up the whole week for that processing.
Got it. Okay.
Anything else? Okay, so moving on, we have set aside some time to actually talk about the budget, but I'm wondering if we could also just do some of these quick new business things first and then just end the evening with the budget. So if nobody has any issues with that. So we'll turn it over for consideration and approval of employment.
Yes, I would like to nominate Lisa Caccitti to actually serve as the Little Harbor School nurse. Lisa has 2 master's degrees, one in public health and one in community health nursing from the University of Michigan. She has over 20 years of nursing experience, and she's been filling in for a long period of time as a substitute and most recently in an extended long-term period. So I'd like to nominate her to take over that position.
So moved.
Motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Next in your packet, you have consideration and approval of a Colonel Helen Mislanka Scholarship Fund. you will see that basically you're being asked to approve an annual scholarship whose initial award will be this spring at the high school graduation in an amount of $2,000 to a senior who is pursuing a degree in a medical field. So this has been, through Attorney Sullivan's review, and it comes before you for your approval this evening.
I'll entertain a motion to accept.
Move to approve.
So moved.
And I'll take that as a second, since you both said
Second.
that the
Good.
same. Is there any discussion on this? Yes, Liz.
I'm interested in knowing who she is and if we know the story about
How did it happen?
how this is coming about. I mean, a $2,000 scholarship is a lot. I've looked at our book, and many of them are $500, $1,000, some $1,500. So it's a very generous scholarship.
Right, and I can inquire and report back to the board. I'll ask Bob for that information. I don't know any details.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd like to know more
Sure,
about it.
absolutely.
It's a wonderful addition
Yeah,
to
it's really awesome.
to what we offer.
Okay.
Generous.
So all in favor of accepting the scholarship fund?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Then the final action item on your agenda is item D, which is a request from the Portsmouth High School Celebration Graduation Committee. Typically, they have asked for a $500 contribution, which you have annually granted them to assist in providing a safe, chemical-free party on graduation night, that Friday night. And so that request comes before you, and I would submit that looking at the financials, you have a $3,000 variance to the positive in order to facilitate that if you so wish.
Okay.
I move that we give $500 for celebration graduation, and I did speak with our business manager earlier tonight, and he said, yes, we did have the money.
Second.
Okay. Further discussion on that? Yes, Rebecca.
I just have a question. It talks about their goal is to have 100% participation. Could we get some history about how many students participated last year and the year before?
Sure.
Thanks.
Quite a lot.
It's usually pretty high, but
Very high.
right. So,
90%.
okay. So all in favor of accepting?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Okay. So the only things left on the agenda for this evening, we set aside some time for the work to talk about the budget, and then we have some committee reports. So let's do the budget conversation. If that's okay.
Sure. Well, I'll kick it off. Monday was the deadline for any eligible teacher with 25 or more years of creditable service in the district to submit take advantage of a retirement incentive. Unfortunately, we had 0 takers, and so that's not an option for us in terms of making adjustments to the budget. You might remember at the last session, we were able to make a $100,000 adjustment in sick leave at term. We also talked about a 5% adjustment in operational across a whole host of areas. So that left us about $170,000. We wanted to give you at least food for thought, the final way to get to 0 then. And so on this sheet that Steve has prepared, which says Portsmouth School Department Budget Adjustment Summary, where you see the FTEs, you'll see no change, I believe, on page 1. And when you look at the second page, basically the last 3 positions above strategic improvement are where we would capture those monies. And it gets more painful. We're talking about reducing the .33 art position at Portsmouth High School. We're talking about, we were carrying a .5 TBA at New Franklin based on enrollment to see how that went. And given where we are, we think we can take that position currently. And then one of the things that has not had a lot of discussion here, but we know we're facing the error cliff. And so Joanne Simon's working with Title I. There have been 6 Title I tutors who have existed in the ERA funding budget. And she has, from the outset, said she'll be able to sustain 4 through regular Title I monies, but the 2 will lose 2 of those positions, unfortunately. So as a result of that, what you're seeing there is the credit we're getting in terms of health insurance in that budget. So that makes up that delta. Steve, when he looked and crunched the numbers a little bit, you'll see that the operational adjustment is less than 5% now, and I think our thought was there'll be a lot of change between February 10th and, when the city council votes a budget in June, and that if there are additional funds, then we can kind of come back and make those adjustments to the operating budget as we move along. So that's our best thinking as to how to move it forward. Steve, I don't know if there's anything else we should point out here.
That's pretty much it.
So this gets us to 0? Is that what you're saying?
That and some other adjustments here operationally, right? I think there was you made a couple of adjustments in 165, was it?
Yes, it's similar to what I said in the financial report. Certain times of the year we have the results of certain reviews, and as a result of trying to review and refine where we were going to be in the 165 budget for this year, the special ed department was able to go and look and change and adjust some projections for next year. So you put that all together with this, and that's how we achieved 0. So there was a little bit of an adjustment in 165 as well, because what happens when you go and look at this, obviously, as you make decisions, you do your best estimate of what the bumping rights would be. So as certain decisions are made, certain things change. So this report from day one has been fluid to a certain degree, and we've just, tried to refine as we've gone along. So
when you say 165, you mean the out-of-district tuition?
That's correct. Yep.
So what's been adjusted on that?
We had I think it was there were a couple of students that switched placements and one that we didn't need to place at all based on the information we have now, which was different than the information we had 2 weeks ago. Again, it's all subject to, placements and how the IEPs come out. Who moves into town and who moves out.
That's a change from this thing.
So I would like to ask, just in light of the turnout we had this evening and how articulate our high school students were about this particular guidance counselor position, the college counselor, maybe if I could ask the superintendent to explain to us again clearly. So even if we were of the mind to say, okay, let's bring that person back, right? Let's just say that. But it's not as simple as that. So maybe you could explain to us what's really involved.
Well, right, and I would concur with you. I think the students were very eloquent in terms of, Ms. Grenier and her, responsiveness to students and their success in the college process. I mean, I think it's a wonderful testament to her. But what we were suggesting in budget is a reduction of 4 counselors. There's 3 at the elementary. There is 1 at the high school. And again, that's based on those minimum standard staffing ratios, where it's 1 to 500 in an elementary school, and it's 1 to 300 at the high school. Those positions, then based on seniority, and that's exclusively how the teacher contract reads. Unfortunately, Ms. Grenier is the last person to be hired as a guidance counselor. And so that's who would undergo a reduction in force if you wanted to do this. Assuming, under the contract you wanted to, sustain her, keep her, you would have to make the other adjustments up the ladder in order to protect her. You'd have to keep all counselors. And there's one more piece that confounds it. You might remember as a board you added her with the additional ERA monies last June. So not only are we talking about 4 positions in general fund that you'd have to adjust, but you'd have to add money in addition to that to cover the 5th position, which was the position you added back in June with the ERA funding to keep her a year ago. So, just based on the way the contract reads, the reduction in force language is exclusively if you have that certification and you've been more senior, you're going to stay, and the least senior people are not going to remain.
Yes, Tom.
So, certifications aside, we take a look at what we have today and understanding the principles of no one is unreplaceable. You know, I mean, I'm replaceable. Everyone else in the workplace is replaceable, and frankly, they'll probably find someone else just as qualified. Knowing that we are somewhat limited in terms of the pool of replacement, you know, because you know the way the contract reads, you know, what does the prospects look like for next year in terms of who is going to take that job, and knowing that, you know, one of the things that was made very clear was not only her credentials, but the fact that she comes with a specific knowledge, relationships that have been developed outside of the school with colleges, with other people, you know, that don't hold credentials, but hold a tremendous amount of weight in terms of her effectiveness. What does the picture look like next year?
So the college counseling position remains in budget.
Right.
And now it's a question of who fills that. And I know we had a meeting actually with the chairs of SAU 50, and that same issue was raised. Principal Collins, you know, made it clear that he would put his best person in that position to kind of fill those shoes. So I don't want to speak for him. He hasn't told me exactly who, but I think he gave assurances to the folks that night and to me that, you know, who his next best counselor would be as a college counselor would fill that position.
Okay. All right. So
I don't have a name.
Right. So we'll know more in terms
Exactly.
of, you know, qualifications and what the impact will be, but
Right.
understand that we're doing the best we can. Right. Okay.
Rebecca and then Kent. I'm sorry. You had your hand. Yes.
So just Tom saying nobody's irreplaceable, while that might be true, we're sort of locked into the staff that we have.
That's my point.
And so she isn't replaceable. I mean, her skill sets, her connections, and we're sort of locked into how we staff. And yes, we can put, you know, the best that we have, but it's not the first choice. We're forced to not retain great staff because they're great staff, and that's really, really difficult, I think, for everybody. And I'm really concerned about this whole guidance outreach reconfiguration from the high school. I mean, she's not a guidance counselor. She's a college advisor, and guidance at elementary versus outreach at elementary. I mean, there are kids who get to school through staff generosity, and there are children who don't have a home, who don't have a support. We saw a young man today who is a high school senior and has no support. And I wonder and hope that he had support in the elementary schools. And here we are looking at cutting it and reconfiguring, but we can't keep the best people. And I think that's a shame. I think it's something that we're going to have to try and work within. You know, our hands are bound. But I mean, it's a different world out there. And cutting this emotional support, while it's not an educator, it's not a classroom teacher, it has everything in the world to do with the education that our children receive. And I don't know where it's going to come from. I'm not comfortable with it coming from these positions. These support positions have become more important over the years as families fall apart, as relationships fall apart, as jobs disappear, and I'm really, really concerned. I know that you've done a great job. You've gotten us to zero. I don't know if we should be at zero. There are other places where we're not looking. I don't want to start picking apart programs, but maybe it's time to do something big. Maybe it's time to do something bold. And you know, tonight I felt like they were preaching to the choir. I completely agree with those students tonight. I mean, to get up and speak is terrifying. For children to come and speak to adults is even more terrifying. I think it just goes to show we have an incredible student body. Their desire to look out for the next generation, I mean, they're out of here. Doesn't affect them at all. They're out of here. But you know what? That's not good enough. They have friends in younger grades. They have siblings. The scholarship fund that they've been wanting to their endowment that they created and wanted to grow, they're not going to see a penny of that. But they don't care. That's not the point. It's for the 7th generation. It's what's coming down the road. And I don't know. I mean, what we have here is just, at what point do we even bother? You know, at what point do we even continue? Let's just get back to reading, writing, and arithmetic. You know, we're, I think, just so looking in the wrong places. I think it's coming from everywhere. It's not just here. It's Rockingham County. We could come in at 0. Our taxes are still going to go up. It's a statewide problem. We need an income tax. This property tax is completely unequitable. And I think we can just keep limping along and come in at 0 and really damage over 2,000 children, or we can do something about it.
Kent, and then Carol.
Just several things in regards to the budget. I mean, we are down to the near 0 hour. We'll have our meeting on Thursday. We'll probably drive both the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and Mr. Bartlett here nuts that night, because I don't think we're going to have consensus on every line item on this. And so somewhere either tonight or immediately at the beginning of Thursday night's meeting, I would hope we could do a line-by-line vote and see where we're at, whether, you know, we're in agreement on that. I think we are at that point. We need to know. I am not in support of several aspects of where the reductions are, and I'll get into that at this point then. And I'll start off first with, we had an excellent presentation, and I am sorry we didn't have more people show up last Thursday night. We actually gave up a budget night, and we had a really good presentation in regards to bullying. And, you know, here's the irony. We bring in one of the country's more knowledgeable persons on bullying, and what's the first thing basically out of his mouth is that we're cutting at the low level of this outreach. If we really were sincere to this gentleman, we wouldn't be cutting outreach guidance counselors, because that's where we hope that we can stop some of that bullying and downsizing of or downing of students. It's not just bullying. I think if you listen to them, the kids that act out aren't necessarily the bullies. They're the ones that react because they were bullied upon. And my understanding, and I wish I had a better knowledge of outreach counselors, but from what I've seen over the years and so forth, they're the ones that sort of put the water on the fuse when things are starting to go wrong, you know, with some of these students at a very young age. And again, if you read his literature, the pamphlet, that's one of the things that we're doing wrong. So I'm going to go on it. And again, I don't think it's a perfect system. I think we might be able to do some reduction there. But I could not support, after listening to that gentleman and you know, having us preach to, saying that, you know, this is what's wrong with school districts. I don't know if he knew or didn't know that Portsmouth was considering to cut in that. Then to get to Shannon Grenier, I knew her as a student back in Portsmouth, and she actually came out of a very successful program that we have that allows students to go on that have financial hardships to college. She actually was a product of
Futures.
Of our Futures program, and was highly revered and knowledgeable person up at UNH for a number of years. And it is the person that you do need to talk about. We rewrote a total of 5, or I shouldn't say we, the superintendent rewrote basically 5 positions this year. And what kind of gets to me on this is that we may be bumping, and Jeff will do the best to his ability, but I would hope that we would have qualifications in that one would have to have successfully done college applications. Just in the time that Shannon has been here, okay, and these are rough numbers, I believe I'm being conservative on the low side, we are up 8% on application acceptance. to colleges. We are up 6 to 7% on number of applications filled in. We were in four-wheel drive, stuck in the middle of the mud in the past with our college applications here. We hadn't seen a change, basically, in over 12 years. That's not acceptable. As it was pointed out here tonight, it was talked about what are we looking for in excellence, or what is excellence. This is a major problem. If we lose her, I don't care who you put in there, there will be a slide back, and it is not going to be probably that individual's fault, because that individual was not as trained as the individual. Shannon got that job because she was more qualified, or extremely highly qualified, and she wished to come back to the community. I think we need to desperately look at that situation. And again, is it Shannon? Yes, it is. Is it that position? To a degree. But most importantly is the success of that area that we have to look at and how we can do that. So those are two major issues that I look at this, where I still have, and I know I voiced it at the last meeting, and I'll voice it again, a $99,000 increase, and I understand, there's, and again, I'm rounding it off, is on the out-of-district tuition is going up an extreme amount. And I just think there are ways that we need, and I know they're contractual, I hear that to a degree, they're contractual. Guess what? We have a budget. We have to go to those people with budgets. And again, I will stand my ground, as I have in Nancy Clayburgh, who had a child go through the PEEP program. We'll say it again. It could be extremely successful in another location, and actually, it might be something that the Dondero School, if that's where it was placed, could actually improve an atmosphere that has grown down in Dondero over the years. And again, I hope that at some point we can start to see where we have a majority of agreement on these line items, because comes Thursday night, if we're doing it, I believe that maybe zero can be reached, but I'm not sure I would agree with some of the areas that we've talked about. Thank you.
Carol.
With respect to Ms. Grenier, I think it's very important that she has these skills, and the young lady who is going to Harvard, it was great to hear how she helped her get into Harvard. But what really touched me, and I don't know about the rest of you, but I actually had tears in my eyes when some of those kids were talking. I thought it was really touching when the young lady talked about how she got her to believe in herself, and that she was shooting really low. She wasn't shooting for competitive colleges. She was just going to go to community college. And this woman got her to believe in herself. I mean, what more could you ask for from a person who works with kids? I mean, if she can do that to one student, she can do it to another. And I mean, that's like just change the world right there by, making people believe in themselves and reach their highest potential. And so I do believe in what one of the speakers said about penny wise, pound foolish. I really do. I mean, I understand where the administration is coming from. I think it was a wise suggestion to us. But I think that we need to really study what the impact will be on our students if we take this person away. If you look at some of the charter schools that are supposed to be the most effective in our country, the one that's in Harlem, run by the gentleman by the last name of Canada, I think is his last name, that school would not be what it is without that man. So I do think that people, we talk about positions, it's all about FTEs, it's about positions. No, our schools are run by people. And so we need to invest in people and the right people. And we need to reward them and promote them and cultivate an environment for really good people. And this person would be the kind of person that any of those charter schools would select to come work there. Because in those charter schools, what the teachers do is they call the kids at night, they call them on the weekends. They're constantly in touch with their kids. And that's how you turn kids around. And she is doing that. All of our teachers should be doing what that woman is doing. And so I feel very passionately that we should make it work. We're smart people. We should sit down and figure out a way to make it work. If we create a new position, a different position, entitle it something else, but put our brains together and come up with a way to do this. I think it will be something we will never regret if we do that. And I will certainly not vote for any budget that would involve her being let go, from what I've heard tonight.
Savannah?
Obviously, you can see like a bunch of my friends are here tonight, and that for you guys to say that and to know that you heard them and you saw them and the fact that they're here, it obviously, this is a big deal. Like, this isn't, we hear about, like, we're very educated students. We hear about the cuts in technology and the cuts about in the music programs, and that's a big deal too. But the fact that they all came for this one cut, I think says a lot about, I mean, we'll give a little here, we'll give a little there, but for something like our future, our getting into college is such a big deal, especially with the level of competitiveness right now that's going on in the country with colleges. It's very scary, and I have an older sister who went through the process without Miss Grenier, with a different college counselor, completely different situation, and she, seeing what Miss Grenier does with me, is like astounded. Like, what? She's called, like, she replies to your emails. You're not doing this alone. We visited so many schools with her, and for me, it's been a much more direct path into where I want to go. And I have said before, I'm going into nursing. Nursing is very competitive. It's very stressful. It's 80 spots of school. You get denied. And Miss Grenier, this summer, I had met with her once, emailed me because she knew I was going down south to look at schools. And on my trip down south, she emailed me in the summertime being like, hey, did you see this at this school? Like, knowing where I was going, what I was doing. And I was like, I not only have to get, I want to get into these schools for myself and my future, but knowing that she's behind me with my parents and everything pushing through, everybody has those personalized stories. And I think that's why they were here tonight, is because they are touched so individually and so deeply by this one woman that I honestly have no idea what I would do without her if we did not have her at our school. And I was talking with my friend who cried today because she was like, what, they're going to cut her? Just because I feel like I have had a lot of great teachers who I see every day for an hour and a half, and I don't have the pleasure of seeing Ms. Grenier every day for an hour and a half, but I feel like I know her a lot better than I know some of my teachers. She knows me a lot more than a lot of my teachers. She has shaped my future than many of my teachers I've had this year. So I feel like keeping her, I wanted to say this the whole time while they were talking, is like one of the most important things I think that this budget needs to keep. And I have a little sister who's a junior, so we're senior junior, and I have no idea what's going to happen to her if she gets left behind in this process. And it's scary. She wanted to come tonight. I have text messages, pages and pages of people being like, hey, I'm caught at work. I can't make it here until 8 o'clock. Do you think they'll still be talking about it? I have 6 friends right now with pages of text. Like, if I Facebook you what I want to say, can I have them said at the meeting? Like, people are very passionate about this. And I feel like if we could please, please, please try to work this through. I know we can do this, but just keep her, because it's a scary, scary thing to go through this process alone, especially when you have people like that girl saying she didn't believe in herself, and some of us don't believe in what I wouldn't have followed this nursing path. I can tell you that right now if it wasn't for her, for going in every day and being like, okay, I got waitlisted, like, what does that mean? And she'll call up the school and just be like, so what does it mean if this and this and this? And I wanted to go into nursing, and she contacted the woman who delivered her children, like the nurse in the room, so I could shadow her. Like, I can't even go further into saying that. The woman who delivered her children, I shadowed her for her day because she got me in contact with her over the summer. I can't even speak more about her. I love her so much, and I probably have one of the closest connections with her out of anybody in our entire school.
Ann.
Clearly, this educator has had an enormous impact on our students at the high school. And I just need this board to know that we've already spoken with the administration and about this, and unanimously among SAU 50, and we're not always unanimous about anything, we really feel that this kind of talent and this quality of person needs to be at our high school. All these kids were very articulate. I'm not going to go through what everyone else has said, but one of the students pointed out, and she said, Mrs. Grenier seeks out students that don't seek her help. Here's a person who goes out of her way to make sure she touches base with every student, regardless of their post-secondary plans, and comes up with a meeting time and talks to their parents and says, finds out what the scoop is in a delicate way so that those kids, when they leave that building in June as seniors, they have a plan. This is 2011, and we are doing a disservice to our kids if we don't make sure when they leave here at age 18 that they have a really viable plan. A lot of them can't afford college, but Shannon has helped them find some kind of extended learning, apprenticeships, internships, community college, something. What are you interested in? How can we get you into a class, 2 classes? How can you start? Not just the kids who are, headed off to Dartmouth or Bates or whatever. She's helped all the kids. Talk about stewardships. That's our job. Make sure these kids have a bright future, whatever they choose to do.
Rebecca.
So in thinking about all this, I'm trying to think of all the different options that are out there. One of them is to not touch guidance, which would affect K through 12. The other would be to rename the position or change the job description or something. And another option would be to not follow the contract. Any way that this happens, there's going to be backlash. And it's either going to be something we can't see from your little sister and what happens to her. I know my life would have been a lot different if I had had that kind of intervention. So I think we need to get creative. We can figure this out. It's not going to be easy, it's not going to be fun, and we're going to have to make some tough decisions. We're going to make somebody angry. But the bottom line is we need to do what's right for our kids.
I'm feeling very strongly about this particular position as well, and I'm just wondering about writing a new job description, because it is different from the others. I know it's difficult in many cases where, for instance, music and art have their certification is K-12, and it's pretty general, and guidance, I think, is that way too, but maybe it doesn't have to be. So I think if we try to look into a new job description.
Yes.
I can put my 2 cents in. I think that even if you write a different job description, as long as the certification is the same, she has the same certifications at 40 or 49 that the other guidance counselors have. So based on the language of the contract, whether it's fair or not, that's what happens. So I don't know, I don't see any way around what's going to happen unless you hold on to all those other guidance people. So maybe, and I'm not a fan of breaking contracts for obvious reasons. So I think that I could try to we could try to figure something out that was pretty creative, but I don't think that this is the forum on TV to try to do that kind of thing. But we could try to figure something out before Thursday to try to help, but that doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
I think people are passionate about everything, and I think that the seniors are passionate about Shannon. I know that the guidance counselors, the outreach counselors are sitting in the audience, but nobody was speaking on their behalf. I think that there's equally as many passionate people that would speak to the benefits of them. I mean, I've told you before that I'm not really sure what's going to happen to the kids that they service next year, and they're going to have a direct impact on whether or not the kids are going to end up going to a college placement guidance counselor at high school. So I think that sort of looking at those big pictures would be pretty helpful.
Kent?
I have a question towards Linda. Linda, we recreated 5, I think, positions that superintendent has rewritten. One of them was custodian, so I'll take that out of the picture.
Yep.
Our custodian super head, department head or whatever. But then we had, I think, 3 or 4 others that were rewritten. If people are certified under the contract, and I feel like I should know this, if people are certified under the contract and we've created a new position and they have more seniority, can they go for that position? I mean, so there's 4, say there's 4 positions that have been recreated or newly created.
The current ones that have just been...
We haven't passed them at this time, but the ones that Ed has gone ahead and given us a write-up on.
Right.
If somebody else is in the system and wishes to apply for that, they have the right to apply for that. Is that a correct?
Sure, as long as they
we
meet
have
the
to post
criteria.
it.
Right. As
So
long
all
as they meet
5
the
positions we
criteria.
should
I
have to
assume
post.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we understood as we're talking about this. It's kind of
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
I think so.
Who had their hand?
I did.
Carol.
Just, would it make sense to talk to Tom Flygar also pretty quickly about?
Certainly, I think so, sure.
Maybe he
Right.
could help us with an idea.
Okay. All right. So we'll meet and on Thursday. So just let's see if we can, because usually, historically, Kent, you can correct me, but to go past 10 o'clock.
Gotta vote.
Just there's a
Gotta
little
vote.
vote amongst ourselves to say we want to stay later or not. So we have a couple of committee reports. Maybe we can get them done before 10 o'clock.
Let's get going.
Come on.
So I'll jump right in on technology if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
If Leslie doesn't mind, she's on policy first, but.
Fine, go ahead.
So on technology, there's a lot of things that we are looking at doing, and I'll just give you a quick synopsis. We have met with a number of different companies to take a look at really understanding what the next generation technological platform is being used at the K-12 level. We've been in touch with companies like ClassLink, Stoneware, that provide a cloud model, so we can understand really what this instructional desktop looks like. Not only what is it going to deliver in terms of the value add to the district, what the actual user interface is going to look like to students, teachers, administrators, how this technology would then be able to be accessed. And, there's some of the things that we've talked about, and we've gotten a better understanding about really when we think about one-to-one computing, and a lot of people think about one-to-one computing in terms of a device per student. And some of the things that we've really understood is that, one-to-one computing really becomes much more about access to technology and a customized, really personal interface, so that one-to-one really becomes having your own unique environment to technology. So that's one of the things that we've learned, as well as just understanding how people are starting to use it. And I know in the past we started thinking about technology much more in a ubiquitous way, and sort of instead of having it over on the side, it's really something that becomes part of everyday life. So we are about to embark on a pilot, so we're just in the throes of figuring out some of these things where we're going to look to establish a pilot at the high school to actually test out some of this so that we can actually experience it, have classes go through it, have teachers experience it, and try to take this to a broader forum where, once we get a pilot going, there's some other things that we'd like to do in terms of exposing the community to this. There's some other things that we're talking about with Network New Hampshire now about how we can take advantage of a statewide ERA-funded network that's being built that's going to provide a tremendous amount of bandwidth to local communities, and not only businesses, higher ed, but also K-12, so that we can then be able to get connected and maybe take advantage of some other things that might enable us to get connected to other communities. Maybe this cloud model could be implemented slightly differently. It might be afford us ways to work with SAU 50 and try to bring a broader technological platform to a number of schools versus just Portsmouth itself. And then finally, we started taking a look at things that might help the board and the district communicate better and build some of that community through looking at and reevaluating things like our website. Those are things that are just in the very beginning stages, but those are things that we're really starting to take a look at, and we'll be meeting hopefully in the next couple of weeks if we have our meeting on the 22nd, and we'll have some more things to be able to present to the board, and we'll have some future updates. But that's something that we're working on right now, and the pilot is something that, from a time frame, we don't have dates yet, but we're hoping that it's going to be in the April to May time frame. So there are some things that are on the calendar that we're looking to have some immediate impact from an evaluative standpoint, as well as from a discussion standpoint, that we'll have some things to talk about how we can improve the delivery of technology here in the district. Thank you.
Did you get that? Wow. Right. So the nice thing about the cloud model is students and parents would pretty much have 24/7 access to the look and feel of the computer they have at school every day, to the programs they have and to the folders they use from anywhere that they happen to be. And the other nice piece is, as Thomas explained earlier, over time we could actually begin to phase out some of the more expensive computers, so to speak, that have hard drives built in and applications on them, and go to more thin clients, which are really just terminals that you would connect to the cloud that wouldn't have applications on them. And so over time, that would be cheaper than buying a whole computer, and easier to replace and quicker and more manageable and less technical support.
Absolutely.
Okay. Leslie?
Policy, we brought those 3 policies for first reading tonight through Primex, and those were approved. We'll take a look at those at our next meeting. We also are working on the facilities use policy, and we'll be bringing that back for first reading. We brought that last meeting and had some changes to it. And then the third one we're going to be reevaluating is the extracurricular discipline policy. So we're taking a look at that. It's, it's kind of up. I think 2 years ago when it was first approved, or question whether it was approved, but when we first brought it forward 2 years ago, we decided we would reevaluate it, and I think we kind of missed that cycle. So we're taking a look at it now to figure out how it's working, and is it effective, and is it, how do people like it? So we're taking a look at that, and we'll be talking more about that in our policy. Anything else? Am I missing anything?
No, that's good.
Oh, sorry, Kent, yes.
I know I had this discussion with the superintendent, but under the facilities rentals, I am going to formally now request on the board that, because of, I think it steps on a lot of new ground, and I believe it could become controversial if we do not do it in a very open manner. I would highly suggest that we put it as a public hearing so people have a full understanding in the community because of the uses of the buildings over the years. I did take a look, and basically, since 1947, we've had an open policy of rentals, and now we're sort of putting on a difference. And I think, we want to be as transparent as possible, and I have already had, a couple of people comment, and I've actually asked for some guidance from a couple of people that have had backgrounds on this, but I know I voiced it that night. I have deep concerns on the freedom of speech and so forth, and what we're actually saying. I know what the city, and I talked to Kathleen tonight, and I'll talk to Sullivan. It really comes down to, again, personal guidance, I think, in something when you have to deal with that. And so, again, I formally ask that we have a public hearing on that prior to the second reading, not the first reading.
So where are you on that? Do we have a date as to when that would come forward yet? Okay.
No, we'll, at our next policy meeting,
talk about
we'll talk about it and decide when we're going to bring it forward for first reading.
So you're not talking till at least April, I would assume, right?
I would doubt it. But
okay.
Our next meeting is
2 weeks.
The end of the month.
Is it before vacation?
Yes.
But then we're on vacation.
The day before vacation, I think.
So it's springtime. Okay.
So it would be probably at least the end of March.
Okay. Rebecca, and then we'll call it a day.
I'm making it just in time. I'm wondering if the policy committee has discussed the State House and informing parents of fourth grade children going to visit it that it's no longer a gun-free zone. And everybody has an article tonight, and I can't remember if I asked the superintendent to pass the article on to the policy committee or not. But I was just wondering.
Anyway. We all have it.
Right, everybody has it tonight, but I don't know if the rest of I don't know who comprises.
3 board members.
That's it. Then you all have it. Will it be on an agenda to discuss at some point, policy? I mean, it's a pretty significant piece. We had several state reps talk to us about it.
Yeah, I would say it'd be on our agenda.
Okay. I don't know who makes the agenda, but I would request that you discuss it at some point fairly soon. Thank you.
If I could just speak to that aspect, several of the representatives have also commented to me that the only change in the gun law is that the representatives and the senators cannot bring guns onto the floor of the House or the floor of the Senate. But the guns have always been allowed in the gallery and everywhere else in the State House. I think we're one of 3 state houses in the country. 2? Okay,
2, yep.
Big 2.
Even Arizona doesn't allow guns.
And so basically, there is no difference. Before they lifted that ban, they had requested that senators and representatives log in their guns. But there was no real request. They just said, would you do it? And if they did, they felt like it. If they didn't, they didn't. So there are no teeth in it. It's not a law. It's a rule that they have.
I think just
that
as
rule is now gone.
A safety, just simply informing parents. You know, the NEA New Hampshire has pulled out of an event citing safety concerns. So not to turn it into a political thing, simply inform parents.
Informing parents, though, isn't necessarily a policy committee issue. It's more like an administrative issue. I mean, that's not a policy necessarily.
Well, do we have a policy that when fourth grade goes, we let them know? It's just something I would like to see on your next agenda.
Well, we did have that conversation. I'm looking at Carol.
We did,
because
yeah,
I
that's
thought you
right.
raised so many great questions about that.
I think you were going to contact
Anytime
Attorney
a child goes
Dwyer.
on a field trip and goes anywhere, do we inform them? What's our obligation to inform them about,
Everything that our kids go out on, there's all kinds of dangers everywhere they go, and we don't inform parents of everything. And if we start to inform on one thing, we could create a duty of care when we don't inform in other things. But there was something specifically we were going to ask. I think just to bring that up and generally talk to Kathleen about that. Can I just add one thing? I'm very sorry. I know we're at the very end. I just want to make sure I just say this before this meeting is over because I know we have to vote, I guess, on Thursday on the budget. I am leaning towards not voting for the budget. And I'll just say very briefly, it's because I think it goes too far in certain areas, and then I don't think it goes far enough in some other areas. And in terms of process, I think we need to do more of what was spoken about today about having a vision and really focusing the budget on what our vision is, not focusing our budget on what the city council says it has to be. And so for those reasons, I'm probably not going to vote for it.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Hey.